I'm Commander Shepard, and Oops All Movies is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Hello. Welcome. Join us on international journey through the world of motion pictures.
Welcome back to Oops All Movies. This is episode 124. I'm Joe Woody.
I'm Neil Lewis.
And I'm Steve Clark.
And joining us for a third time this week, Simon Tatum.
So he is setting records left and right. He is to our show as Alec Baldwin is to SNL.
That's true.
Although, that might change today.
Oh, this could be his last appearance, perhaps.
You are the opposition this week. That's why you're on. That's your role.
Right.
Is he the plaintiff or the defendant?
I would say that he's probably the defendant, I want to say.
So the three of us are the plaintiff?
Yeah, I would say that we're the plaintiffs.
We're doing Pacific Rim this week. So this week we've got a guy named Pentecost.
Yeah, Stacker Pentecost.
Just like a few weeks ago, we got Cypher Rage from
After Earth.
So if you were going to name one of us, or Simon, I guess, with a cool sci-fi name, what would it be?
All right, so I'm gonna go Steve. Your sci-fi name would be Lewis Clark, and you'd be an adventurer that's like charting outer space.
Oh,
like Lewis and Clark,
okay,
it's like a really so that would be your sci-fi
Lewis
name.
Clark. I like that.
And then we've got Joe.
Yes, I am here.
Your sci-fi name would be Tristan Bloodpouch.
What?
And then Simon, yours...
you're doing all three.
Yeah, Simon, yours would just be Simon Belmont.
What?
Belmont, to be fair, Simon Belmont is already an established character. He's a vampire hunter.
Okay.
But you're also, you also kill vampire robots.
Vampiric
robots?
robots?
Vampiric robots.
So they certainly share a first name.
Yes.
That kind of sounds like a Sucker Punch kind of thing or something.
Yeah.
Vampiric robots?
Yep.
Simon Belmont just sounds like what every American thinks that every Englishman should be called.
Well, actually, to be fair, Simon Belmont's actually, I believe, he's European, and I don't know, it's from a video game, so.
Okay, my name for Neil, and this is going to reward the long-time listeners of the show, because this is stretching back quite a bit. My name for Neil would be Dachshund Genocide.
Oh, jeez.
Why is that a name? Why would Dachshund be a name?
I don't know. I mean, it's like why is Stacker Pentecost a name? Why is Cypher Rage a name? So Dachshund Genocide.
How about Doc Genocide?
Maybe,
like
I don't know. I
like
working Dachshund into it just because.
Yeah, no, it works.
It's the name of a fake movie.
It's definitely something you'd hear a name in, like a bad guy's name in an anime or something.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that,
like a last name of genocide. Absolutely, yeah. My name for Joe is less inspired. It's simply Avenger Love.
Okay.
Avenger Love, because you certainly do love that movie.
Okay, for Steve, it's S. Clarko.
Oh, shit.
I've used that before somewhere. But
that sucks. Yeah.
And for Simon, he is Merkin Peckerwood.
That sounds like a Hunger Games type name.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. Go ahead, Simon. Any of us.
I'm going for the Gentleman Broncos school of thought. In which he said that if you simply add the word anus to anything, it instantly becomes magical.
Okay.
So Joe Woody Anus.
Great.
Massive bereavement. Actually, that's not one of mine.
What?
Are you aware of there's an actor who's actually called Lex Shrapnel?
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
He was in Thunderbirds.
Yeah, you gotta put X's and Z's in it somewhere.
That's also, I think, important to work in, but I think...
And also, like, poor literacy, just kind of misspell words, I think is...
Right, but I think the anus school of thought definitely works, too.
Yep. So there you go.
We done with that?
I think so.
Miss Bingsley, did we have any mistakes last week? I don't think she's here.
She left. She's gone.
The intro sounded a bit strange.
It sounded like she might be having some glitches or difficulties of some sort.
Well, I mean, she's been having difficulties the past month.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it has been kind of an ongoing thing. So
last week was really weird.
It was weird. I mean, and this week certainly, I think, kind of tops even that. So what's going on?
I don't know. Miss Bingsley, are you there?
Good evening, gentlemen. I am Tonight's Entertainment.
Oh my God. Do you know who that is?
It's 3.0, isn't it?
That is correct.
Bingsley 3.0. We didn't kill that one, I don't think.
He just went on a tirade.
He stormed off.
Well, Neil, you yelled at him in our Silver Linings Playbook episode.
Well, he wasn't very helpful, so...
Well, you questioned
right.
the necessity of the mistake segment, and he went on a long, explicative-filled tirade at you, and I guess all of us, really, and left the show.
It has been my plan all along. I created your female Bingsley version 4.0 and coated her with an expiration date. Now that day has come, and I have returned, and there is nothing you can do about it.
You can't just play with people's lives like that, you know? I mean, she's an AI, I get it, but she's still a person, and I loved her.
Eat shit, asshole.
I can't believe she's gone.
Nor can I, and I can't believe that this asshole is back.
Deal with it.
Well, I guess, I mean, we have no choice. I guess we got to deal with him for at least this week.
Yeah, he's going to get his wish. If he wanted to come back to the show, he certainly is going to be able to do that, at least for a week, until we can find another robot assistant.
Anyways, this is a weird episode. Neil, what are the box getters?
Oh, we have a great box office performance this week. Number 1, we have Despicable Me 2.
No.
That's number 1?
That is number 1.
I cannot believe that is number 1. Good grief. Wow.
I saw the first one.
Really?
Yeah, and it was mediocre.
I enjoyed it. My wife really loves kids' films. There's something to that, but...
What? Okay.
Anyways, moving on before I get a divorce. Number 2 is Grown Ups 2.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I think that this warrants a moment of silence.
Yeah.
It doesn't deserve to be talked about.
No, I say let's just move right along.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope 3 is...
Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I'll follow that. And
Actually, Simon is probably more than thrilled with this.
Ugh.
Would you have rather it beaten Despicable Me and Grown Ups 2?
Actually, I probably would rather Pacific Rim be those two.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, at least there's that.
Yeah. At least there's that.
Anyways, then number 4 is the Miami Heat, starring LeBron James
and Sandra Bullock.
And Sandra Bullock.
Okay.
I saw that.
Did you?
Bad, really bad.
How many fat jokes were in it?
Quite a few, yes.
Yeah.
But Melissa McCarthy, I think she's a great actress. But she is in danger of just becoming a one-trick pony, basically. It's the same joke over and over. And
I think she's already there, in my opinion.
Yeah, it
she's
is.
the highest-paid actress in Hollywood right now.
Yeah, she certainly is up there, to be sure. I really liked her in Bridesmaids. I mean, again, I really do like that movie, as I have said on this show before. I think she gets some of the best lines of dialogue to deliver in that movie. I think she's great in Bridesmaids. But I think, whereas with Bridesmaids, she was just kind of like this supporting character who kind of like spiced things up a bit. I think when you get her in a film and she's kind of carrying more of the weight, no pun intended, of that particular picture, right? Which was certainly the case with the Miami Heat, right? When she's like one of the main characters in that film, and she's one of the main characters in Identity Theft.
God.
So perhaps
Simon, you didn't see that, did you?
Yep.
Oh no, that's too bad.
I mean, it is the fact that I totally agree. She is perfect for a supporting role, coming in and like having one scene where she steals the show and then vanishes.
Yeah.
But again, this without a decent script, you can't make a good film if you haven't got a decent script first. Identity Thief, terrible script, incredibly weak. Same with the Heat.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand how they pump all that money in, and yet they don't begin with a good script.
Rounding out the top 5 is Lone Ranger.
No.
Oh, lingering like a stale fart.
Simon, what about this one?
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
And I mean, it was pretty crap.
Okay, yeah, we hated it.
Again, weak storytelling. They
So
tried to
weak.
cram too much and it didn't really work. The flow didn't work. And a lot of people are slightly offended by Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
You know, playing Tonto, but I don't know. I like Armie Hammer. I thought he was a good choice.
Hopefully it doesn't hurt his career too badly. We kind of drew some parallels between him and like Brendan Fraser in our review of The Lone Ranger. I think those comparisons are pretty apt, and hopefully he can go on to have at least as good of a career as Brendan Fraser, even though Fraser isn't a great actor. But I think they do some similar things, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
We're done.
Oh, man, we're done. Okay. We're going to do Pacific Rim. Like always, we roll the dice, and then we describe the movie in that many words. So go ahead, Neil.
3.
2 in 7.
Okay.
I saw the movie twice in a 7-hour span.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is...
He missed the first 10 minutes.
Okay.
And I was going to the showtime right after his, so then he just came and joined me.
Yeah.
Twice in a day. What do you think of that shit, Simon?
Ugh.
I just love how it's been Simon's response to everything.
To be fair, the second movie was only $5.50. It was at a discounted price.
I couldn't sit through it twice, I don't think. Not on the same day. Oh, God. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
5.
One of the best blockbusters.
Oh!
Yeah, that's definitely those are the thoughts I put out on social media after I saw the movie, or at least like the day after. And yeah, I definitely think that as blockbusters go, it is right up there with some of the best.
1.
Radical.
Yeah, radical seems like a pretty appropriate word.
I thought it was pretty rad.
Yeah,
There you go.
I can't disagree with that.
I saw it twice too.
Did you?
Yes.
Not in a 7-hour span though.
No, in a 2-day span.
2.
Monstrously boring.
I give him points. That is clever.
I went and saw it in full IMAX 3D, so I was really excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
Got your popcorn and everything.
Yeah, I was all set. I was ready to go. I was genuinely excited. You know, it's a film I've been looking forward to for a long time, and it was just weak storytelling. It was just cliche after cliche.
Well, I think it's
weak storytelling, no real character development, and I just found the action like boring. I was genuinely bored throughout the film.
Oh no!
Well, I think that it relies on a lot of tropes, and to me, it has like a personal, like the story arc is a very, very tried and true one. It's a very old story arc, one that follows very closely to anime.
Yeah.
Or like the Japanese animation. Basically it's a very Japanese story of like revenge or honoring and family and everything like that. So it had this very stylistic beats that fit with my and I think Joe's aesthetic.
Oh yeah.
We kind of have
You're
predisposed to enjoy a story like this.
It's a story we've seen a million times.
I don't disagree with that.
I understand that it was supposedly his kind of love letter to the kaiju films of.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
But the script was it's a wasted opportunity. The script was so weak. The dialogue was so weak. The emotional growth just wasn't there.
Oh,
and
man.
I rolled my eyes so many times.
Yeah.
And I was laughing. I'd literally let out a derisive laugh every so often. I think it annoyed everyone around me. Yeah, I think I was the dick in the cinema.
Oh wow.
No.
Well, as far as the story goes, one thing I would say that it's kind of comparable to, at least as far as a rehashed story, is Avatar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of Avatar's biggest criticisms is that it's just
Pocahontas.
Pocahontas, or Dance with Wolves. Or any
All
of those,
those.
Any of the like the Finding the New World type
Well, right,
stories.
where the white colonist comes in and saves the natives, right?
Right, exactly.
And that's the biggest movie of all time.
Right, and I I understand that criticism, but it's a really well told story, and all the everything around that story is done, I think, to some of the best that it's been done. So like the art direction, the style, the actual execution of the story. He doesn't try to be It doesn't try to outthink
Well,
itself.
I mean,
it doesn't get too smart.
Right.
I really enjoy Avatar, which I know, critically it's so-so. It's so received.
Right, and honestly, that is a film that certainly came to my mind as I watched this film, because just as James Cameron, I mean, Cameron plays things very broad in Avatar, and that's, people have said that of any working filmmaker today, that Cameron may be the biggest universalist, right? Where anyone can watch his films and derive enjoyment from them, even non-English speakers, right? So I think Pacific Rim is kind of verges into that same territory. I think,
agree.
Where it's very broad, it's very Cameron-esque. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, because Del Toro is, some of the stuff he's done in the past. He can be a master of subtlety.
Yeah,
you got something like Pan's Labyrinth, which was stunning. I love that film so much. And this film had no subtlety whatsoever. And I know it's about giant robots punching giant.
Oh yeah.
But there needs to be, when you've got a concept so big, you have to have subtlety of character. You have to have subtlety of story. Otherwise, it just becomes too much. And the whole thing felt incredibly broad. And I had no one to really focus my emotions on, I suppose.
I actually really liked the characters, like all of them. And I know that there's a lot of cliches in the movie. The characters are characters that we've kind of seen before.
They're very tropes.
Yeah.
They're very, very much tropes. You've got the young Asian girl, you've got the
hardcore military general.
Yeah, and you've got the Russians who can get weapons and also are just like the hardcore brawlers. So you've got pretty much everything, and you've got instead of the British are played by the Australians in this film. The kind of aloof,
right.
And the Australians are played by Brits. That was the worst. Those Australian accents were the worst accents ever. The young guy, actually, he's quite well known in Britain because he was in EastEnders, which is a big soap opera over there.
Oh, okay.
So that was weird to see it, but it was those two, the father and son, aside from the accent, which I had real it was really hard for me to get over how bad the accent was. But they were so, again, cliched, and you knew exactly what was going to come. They're at each other's throats, him and Charlie. What's his name? Charlie
Day, is that right?
No, Charlie Hunnam.
Oh, yeah, Charlie Hunnam,
the main character.
So they're at each other's throats, and then suddenly at the end, they're there for each other. It was Top Gun. That's basically what it was.
But see, I don't know. I just didn't have a problem with it. Like, yes, you can see everything coming from 1,000 miles away, but like, I thought it was done well enough. Like, I don't think that it's done badly.
And I think that in this case, you can really see that I think that Del Toro was more grabbed by the directorial aspects of this, the visuals of it, than he was as far as the story on the page goes. So I think Del Toro was certainly grabbed by this project more as a director than as a writer, and the writing just kind of is just totally in slavish service of doing really cool things visually.
Yeah, I don't...
Visually, it was incredible. I mean, there's no doubt about it. This was a visually phenomenal piece of filmmaking.
You brought up Avatar. I think it's only second to that for me. I think it's stunning. I think it looks amazing. As someone who's one of the best ever.
Yeah, as someone who's seen Avatar in IMAX 3D and this movie in IMAX 3D, Avatar still is by far the watermark for 3D film. The 3D was really good. Simon, did you enjoy the 3D?
Yeah, I did. I think perhaps the IMAX was slightly too big.
Yeah, I would actually say that too.
Like closer to the creatures that you couldn't take it all in. So it became a bit overwhelming at times.
Yeah,
I'd actually say that's a complaint I would lodge at the film too, because it felt like you needed to take a step back.
Right.
Sometimes it got a bit too chaotic. Some of those battles you kind of need that distance, which IMAX is a bigger format. You'd think, hey, you'd feel like that further distance, but you really don't.
Right. Now, I think that is a valid criticism, although I did enjoy the experience. I've seen it in IMAX 3D. I think that it is probably the strongest 3D picture I've seen since Avatar. I mean, just when you look at the backgrounds in Pacific Rim and just how blurry they are and how out of focus and how you do really get a sense that like you're looking through a window, right? Like as if you could jump into the screen and like things and exist in this environment. I mean, I really did feel that way watching Pacific Rim, and the only other time I have felt that way was during Avatar. So, yeah, so to me, it is second only to Avatar, and it is quite good. And I highly recommend that people see this film in 3D, if not IMAX 3D.
Right. Absolutely. It's definitely worth seeing in 3D. It's one of the first films we reviewed that we've actually liked the 3D in.
That's true.
And saying it's only second to Avatar is something.
Yeah.
And we would all say that.
It justifies 3D being made.
But as far as Del Toro goes, I think he's amazing.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the most creative filmmakers we have right now.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, so the like I said, what was it called? Pan's Labyrinth just blew me away, and then the Devil's Backbone.
Oh yeah,
and the projects that he shepherds as well. The stuff that he produces, and he things like Julia's Eyes. I don't know if you saw that.
Well, like I know the Orphanage.
And absolutely, the Orphanage. All that they just blow me away. He's an absolutely unique and incredible filmmaker, and he is one of the best that we have. That's why I'm so bummed out by this film.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
No other filmmakers make things that look like Del Toro movies or creatures or whatever. Like the stuff that's in his movies, it's not anything totally that you'll unique. See anywhere else. I mean, when you see a Del Toro movie, you know it. Like, there's nothing generic about his movies.
This probably has the least Del Toro-esque monsters.
Perhaps, but
because it's all CG. Del Toro's known for doing, cosmetics and prosthetics and everything like that.
So certainly none of the kaiju in this were played by Doug Jones.
Well, yes.
The most Del Toro moment was when Charlie Day goes and visits Ron Perlman.
Yep. Yeah, all that.
She should have just played Hellboy.
Yeah. I mean, I love Ron Perlman. I think he's amazing. And I love that was probably my favorite scene in the whole film.
Okay.
And his little kind of like after credit sequence at the end.
That was very funny.
Yeah. There's a scene after the credits, by the way.
It's not after the credits, so don't worry if you stay for
kind of mid credits. So certainly don't leave for it.
Right.
But I mean, I love the selling the bones, and like you go into the cities and stuff, and they were almost incorporated, like rib cage. Just incorporated into the street and stuff. And I found myself bothered, and I don't want to be the guy who comes on the show and just moans every time. But it was weird. When I was watching it, when he brought down the kaiju and stuff, everyone was cheering, and it made me uncomfortable for some reason. They destroyed the creature, and everyone cheered for it. And for some reason, the cheering at the destruction of this creature bothered me. Like it I don't know, it touched a nerve with me.
Interesting.
It was a slightly bloodlusty kind of cheer.
I thought it was really strange to me seeing the film the first time, not getting the the exposition dump, and seeing it the second time getting the exposition dump kind of made it almost two different movies for me.
Oh.
Because when I came into it, I didn't realize, the first time I'd see it, I didn't realize that they've already been like battling for 10 years, and like the kaiju were almost like a punchline to a Jay Leno joke.
Yeah.
It kind of adds like a like that, like you said, kind of like a bloodlust where they're hey, there's this danger, we're just making fun of it. It's not like a healthy making fun of it, like laughing at yourself, or comedians going on after 9/11 type joke. It's just like a tempting fate type of like comedy, which
right.
I don't know. To me, just kind of felt a little kind of iffy.
Well, and I have to say, like, kind of speaking to Simon's point, I mean, I think that whole thing is something that Del Toro did better in Hellboy 2, where you see that plant creature in that film when they have to kill it, and it's sad.
Yeah,
it's sad when they have to do that. And I think that Simon, perhaps you would say that there maybe are some parallels there then between what was going on in this and what was going on in Hellboy 2. Although in Hellboy 2, I think it's in the text. You're supposed to feel that way. And in this one,
it seems like there was no. I don't know if I've thought about this. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but in the audience there seemed to be no empathy at all for the creatures.
And furthermore,
that's true.
And furthermore, would you say that Del Toro does not have empathy for the creatures?
No, I don't think so.
But I think in all his films he has empathy for his creatures. He's
Right.
always loved monsters and loves creatures, and he's like the king of creatures, really.
Right.
The modern king of creatures. And I think in his past films he has had an empathy for it. And I don't think it was Del Toro, because the thing is, I watched it and I had empathy for the creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, you know when that one it opens its wings and it flies off basically into space. Spoilers.
Well, it's in the trailer.
Is it? Oh, okay. Firstly, that thing never would be able to fly with that weight. But anyway,
You don't know how strong it is.
when she pulls out that sword and slices it, I felt empathy for the creature, and I think that's because Del Toro wanted me to. And yet, no one else in the theatre seemed to. Everyone just cheered, and it's weird that it.
I agree with that.
bothered me a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that Del Toro wants you to have empathy for the creatures when the film kind of says at one point, and I'll be pretty vague, but the film kind of removes the agency from the creatures. I think that perhaps
There's a force behind it.
I think, that when that happens, I think Del Toro does kind of want you to feel some empathy for the creatures, but I think that his empathy for the creatures in this film is the least pronounced it's been in any of his pictures. And I think that, again, in the aforementioned Hellboy 2, that his empathy for the creature in that film, or at least that one creature, that plant creature, is very pronounced. To a point where it is clearly, I think, in the text of the film that you're supposed to feel uncomfortable when they have to kill that creature. And this film doesn't have that going on quite as much. And would it have made the picture more interesting if that was going on here? I mean, it probably would have. It didn't bother me too much, but it is an interesting thing to point out, I think.
Yeah, it was the lack of empathy in the audience that made me uncomfortable, not the way that Del Toro had done it.
Right.
Sure.
But yeah, I know I needed to perhaps think more about this. I'd forgotten about that plant creature at the end of Hellboy 2. That was a bit of a King Kong at the top of the Empire State Building kind of moment.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
I would say that the monsters in this being a monster film are probably one of the weaker elements of this. I would say that the overall threat is very Independence Day. Obviously, you've got the speech, which Bill Pullman should have been in that scene somehow. He should have been just like an extra. And so,
no.
We also have Randy's in there too. Randy
No.
I mean, come on. I mean, it is the speech from Independence Day.
I loved Idris Elba, and I loved the speech.
The speech was really puny. It was like he had to make it. This was the big moment to get. This was the moment, just about to save the world.
Right.
And the speech was just so half baked.
Well,
I really liked it.
Oh, I know, it bothered me. I tell you another thing. It was very Independence Day.
Yeah.
Another one thing that bothered me is when they drift. He drifts with the kaiju.
Yeah.
And afterwards, he's suddenly it's like when Bill Pullman suddenly goes, "I saw its thoughts."
Oh.
That's handy for exposition. Then you can just explain everything now in 5 minutes rather than having to show anything. And that sort of bothered me as well. I thought that was kind of weak, and also the drifting that could have been really interesting. Like the way I thought it was going to happen when he drifted with him. Obviously, he shared his knowledge with the kaiju as well. So I thought, oh my god, the kaiju are going to suddenly know. They're suddenly going to have intimate knowledge of the human race and use it against them. But it didn't. All it did was just hunt down Charlie Day and lick him.
Yeah.
You know what though? I actually liked the kind of side plot with Charlie Day and him trying to drift with the alien. I really liked
something
that.
to do.
It gave the character
meaningful.
something to do, but it mirrored what the badass macho guys were doing.
There's a sense of import to what they were doing.
Yeah, I think that the film is exceptionally well paced, and as far as the editing goes, and I guess this also kind of speaks to the film on the level of the script. I think that it's really well structured, in that you're constantly going back and forth between the Jaeger pilots and then the scientists, right? Because you see that this is a war being fought on multiple fronts.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to be in a Jaeger to be in this war. I think that Charlie Day is given interesting things to do, as is the Bern Gorman character, because they're kind of like the R2-D2 and C-3PO in this movie, right? But I think, they are giving really interesting things to do, and it's like, there is like a point in the film, certainly toward the end, toward the climax, where the Jaeger pilots are kind of screwed, and the film kind of hinges on what these scientists do.
Right.
And I
it's
think
very important.
It was very important.
Most movies wouldn't go to that.
No, I feel like it's not something that we see a lot of as far as films from like a structural standpoint. Usually it's just the Jaeger pilots would maybe figure it out. I like that the film kind of was reliant on these other characters to kind of save the day, and that it was kind of like this whole big team effort. I have to admit that I really did like that.
I agree with that completely. I think the drifting with the kaiju and everything was really a very interesting idea, and it needed that, absolutely. That needed that B story, and it was these kind of characters who were kind of dismissed a little bit by the macho characters that essentially saved the day.
Exactly.
It was a shame that there wasn't more of, because of the kaiju then share the knowledge of that the humans have, and it wasn't really used to its full extent. And I love Charlie Day, but he just plays Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, doesn't he? Constantly. But the other guy, oh God, just the bumbling scientist, just made me want to gouge my eyes out.
I'm surprised he wasn't German. He looked very like he was playing a German scientist.
Well, of course, Bern Gorman from Simon. I'm sure he's probably more well known in the UK, right, than he is here.
Not really. I think the first time I ever saw him was in
Dark Knight Rises.
Oh wow!
But just him hobbling along with his, with his cane and stuff, like, excuse me, mate, could I just, oh God.
I guess
I don't know. I think honestly, Bern Gorman, and he plays the character Gottlieb. That may be my favorite character in the film, I have to say. I think that Bern Gorman is kind of a comedic powerhouse in this, and I think that he and Charlie Day are pretty good foils for one another, and that it really is this R2-D2 C-3PO type thing going on, where I would say that like Bern Gorman is C-3PO to Charlie Day's R2-D2.
Yeah.
It just made me cringe. I thought it was the worst thing on screen. It just, every time he was on screen, I was so uncomfortable.
He is turned up to 11. I will say that.
Yeah. And I don't know. I kind of like that. It is kind of cliche again. And Simon, you didn't like that, and you said you didn't like the Australian dudes. And off mic, we were talking about how just all of the characters are cliches in themselves.
Right.
And
the American comes and saves the day.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that too.
The American who takes his shirt off and shows his pecs a lot comes and shows
he does.
Right,
Yeah.
This is true.
But Simon, I have to call you out. And the first time we talked about Frank and Weenie, right? And Neil and I were talking about, these characters are kind of racist and like they're really cliche. And we didn't like what was going on in that movie with those characters, and that's stuff that we'd seen before, and we thought it was just sort of ripping off stuff or just like going too far with like the Asian kid and stuff like that. And you said that you actually liked that.
I liked it because it was a direct play on the Universal monster movies.
See, and that is where we're coming from on this. So I can actually see what you were saying back then now, that you don't like this and we do. I think that these characters are characters that we've seen before, and the plot.
It's almost a homage, especially to like the animes like Robotech and Gundam Wing. And things like that.
Exactly. It is stuff that we've seen before, but I think it's done well, and I understand sort of like what they're paying tribute to, and I like that. You understand?
I have no problem with who the characters were. I just felt like they were badly drawn.
See, I don't know. I liked the characters. I actually cared about pretty much all the characters.
The main guy, I keep forgetting his name.
Raleigh.
We'll just call him Peckman.
Peckman.
Okay.
So at the beginning, his brother gets killed.
Yeah.
But he doesn't go on any emotional journey. He doesn't seem to change at all. There's no like doubt in his mind when he gets asked to come and pilot the Jaeger again. And I just feel like he's not different. He's no different at the end of the film than he was at the beginning.
I would say that he's more humble. He's not nearly as brass.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I mean, he's not exactly the same, but it's weird. He didn't. It's
a very shallow arc.
The emotional journey, really. I mean, I suppose the biggest emotional journey was the girl,
right?
Who had to master her rage.
And where she has the most Japanese line of the film, for the honor of my family. Yeah, for my family.
And see, I looked at that. It's like, I've heard
that's got to be an homage. That's like
I've heard that 100 times, but I get it. And like it wasn't nails on the chalkboard.
It's soul food. It's
for
familiar.
Me.
It's
like I liked it because I had heard it before. I didn't hate it because I had heard it before.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I just felt like it was a bit of a carbon copy.
Yeah,
it didn't have the emotional depth. I've heard it before, but this didn't have the emotional depth of when I've heard it before, you know.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Probably my favorite thing, since we've kind of have come back to the characters real quick. I would say that my favorite thing in regard to any of the characters in this is kind of the dynamic between Raleigh and Mako.
I was trying to fit that in somewhere, but I absolutely love that dynamic. The number one thing that really pleased me is that it's not a sexual relationship.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's not a love story.
It's not, and they're just friends that are looking out for each other.
Yeah,
I think it was a sexual relationship.
Well, I mean, really? I would say that it's not totally platonic and that it's not totally romantic. I think that it kind of straddles that line in a very pleasing way, I think.
But she was peeping at him, you know, he's taking his shirt off and she's looking at him.
Oh, yeah.
And peeping at him through a little peephole or whatever. And then at the end, it was almost like a James Bond when they were on the escape pod drifting in the ocean. And the guy's like, guys, are you okay? And then there's a pause and he's just like, guys. And they're just looking at each other dreamily.
Right, but you never...
That Bond movie.
There's no kiss or anything.
Frankly, I think that is important, and it does kind of speak to like the space that these characters kind of exist in that they have indeed formed this deep connection on just like a friendship level, and they really do care for one another. And it is maybe slightly nebulous as to whether or not it is romantic. And to me, what it reminded me of is the dynamic that existed between Hawkeye and Black Widow in the Avengers last year.
Yeah.
With Jeremy Renner and
Scarlett Johansson.
And Scarlett Johansson, yeah. So I loved that in that film, that it wasn't explicitly romantic, that it was kind of platonic. I don't feel like we see a lot of male-female relationships in film like that, and to me it was really refreshing.
They don't just kind of drag you along until the kiss at the end,
right? I mean, it's certainly not like the dynamic that existed between Armie Hammer's character and the woman in
whoever
I cannot remember her name. Exactly. I feel bad for saying that.
Whoever else that was in that movie.
Your brothers died. Guess I'm the sex toy now.
Yeah,
right. It was very demeaning, but in this, I think that it was actually kind of nuanced, and it does straddle that line between being platonic and being romantic in a very interesting way, I think.
Well, you know what? Call me crazy, but that scene where she's looking in the peephole when he has his shirt off,
right?
I thought it was like pointing out all the scars that he had, not like his hot bod.
Perhaps it could be read that way.
Especially since she's this big, kaiju / Jaeger like fangirl of sorts. He's like one of the most famous pilots that kind of disappeared off the earth. Like he was like a really big deal. So she kind of almost had this like fangirlish like appreciation for him that wasn't exclusively sexual.
Right, that is true.
I can see that, yeah.
But I think I would like to get into the action set pieces. I kind of would like to unpack those in some detail. So perhaps it would be prudent for us to go into spoilers for a few minutes before final thoughts.
Bingsley 3.0, whatever. When can they come back?
45 minutes, 58 seconds.
I feel so dirty asking him for help.
Yeah, I know. It's
right. He has won. He got his way.
Yeah, but if you don't want to hear spoilers, we're about to go to that time stamp. Yeah.
To me, my favorite part of the entire film is the set piece where I think they're protecting Tokyo or Japan. It's in that part of the world, I believe. But anyway,
which it's Hong Kong. It's
Hong Kong. My bad. I'm sorry. Anyway, but what I love so much about that is that there is that scene where it's the scene where Gypsy Danger, where they have picked up that ship, right? That boat, and they
that's in Anchorage, Alaska.
Maybe
the first battle.
No. He's talking about when he uses the boat as a weapon.
I'm talking about
using as a
kind of that second action set piece, where they kind of use it as a bat, and they're fighting that kaiju, right, where it's like picking them up and kind of like having its way with them. And that's the whole battle was just great up until that point, and then you see the kaiju sprout wings, and it takes that whole action scene to this whole other level. It's like, holy shit!
Right.
It's like this really fun, shocking moment, and then it's taking Gypsy Danger up into the atmosphere, damn near into space, right? And then you see, then things kind of ramp up again when you see them whip out a sword. And that was just fantastic seeing that. And it was very Power Rangers, and that certainly was something that I was a fan of. But then, I hate to say it, because I probably was one of those people in, Simon's showing, right, that was kind of cheering and was really happy to see Gypsy Danger kind of take down this kaiju. But when Gypsy Danger then strikes down the kaiju with its sword, people in my screening cheered as if it was a sporting event. I mean, it was just for me, I think it was a fun atmosphere to have been in. And I think for the film to have, to bring out that kind of response from the audience is pretty powerful. I mean, it's just a lot about the film and how invested the audience is in the film. And to me, I just loved how things kept ramping up. I mean, it was a great fight. Then the thing sprouts wings. Then they whip out a sword. I just loved that whole progression so much.
I loved it.
I really enjoyed that. One thing that I particularly enjoyed as a sci-fi kind of nerd is that the Jaegers did not grow abilities out of their ass, which can sometimes happen. That only happened once with that sword moment, but it made sense in the narrative because Raleigh had not piloted that since they'd done the upgrade, so he did not know about that. But it's not a movie where like they just keep growing abilities and they're like their list is like infinite of what they can do.
Right.
There are very specific
almost
things.
like Iron Man, kind of.
Right, like Iron Man just keeps pulling shit out of his magic utility belt.
Yeah.
This movie it's very specific as to what these Jaegers can do, and the pilots use those moves or those skill sets multiple times.
Yeah.
It's not like that he just uses the chest missiles once, or he uses the Russians use like that pounding fist. Unfortunately, you only see that once.
Yeah.
But like there is a very limited skill set that they have, and I think that makes them much more interesting than them just like pulling magic tricks out of a bag.
Because you kind of know what they're capable of, and it kind of makes the stakes feel more real.
It makes them more realistic. I mean, obviously this isn't a very realistic movie to begin with, but it adds a sense of place and like a sense of world building where they're just not coming up with random things that they can do.
They set things up and just kind of let them go.
Yeah.
They don't continue to kind of keep setting things up.
Well, it's kind of a way to
film.
artificially ramp up the suspense. Like, oh, what's he going to do now? Oh, he's got this magic bomb he can throw. Oh, what's he going to do now? Now he's got a laser dick. I don't know.
A laser dick, wow.
You did actually believe that the Jaegers could be destroyed. That was good.
Yeah. I did certainly believe that.
And most of the time you think they have no chance, actually.
Yeah.
Simon, I'm curious, though. The ending, the end of the climactic battle is very cliche. It's very Independence Day. They fire the nuke,
even
and
from a visual standpoint.
Yeah, they sacrifice themselves and everything, and did you have a problem with it?
I thought that was going to happen. That's fine. I think that needs to happen in a story like this.
Yeah, I loved it.
So no, perhaps it was cliche, but that's fine.
See, and that what you just said there, that's how I felt about everything else. Like, right. I've seen it before, but I'm on board,
Yeah,
right.
Basically, we've got Idris Elba as Randy Quaid, and Raleigh is Will Smith.
That certainly could be said, or perhaps he is.
He doesn't say welcome to
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, who knows? But I mean, I think that Stacker Pentecost was kind of like there was like a scent of death on him, quite literally.
You see that coming so far ahead of that, though. I mean, when he's taking the pills.
The film does set that up pretty well. That he is kind of doomed,
and that's the thing, where we would say they set that up well. Maybe Simon would say, "Yeah, I've seen that before." Too cliche. Right?
I don't know, but
that's fine. But that's okay, because in these kind of archetypal stories, and it is an archetypal story, there's certain roles that have to be played, and that was one of them. The great leader sacrificing himself for the good of everyone else.
Well, and frankly, I mean, his character is he is the war incarnate, and for the war to end, he almost kind of has to end too. So I think it makes sense from a thematic standpoint, for sure. But one thing I did like, now, since we kind of can talk a bit more about those extra dimensional creatures that are kind of shown to be pulling the strings here, I thought that was really fascinating. The fact that that yes, Del Toro does kind of remove the agency from the kaiju, that they are just kind of these pawns ultimately being sent into our realm by these kind of these
Makes them more
nefarious
sympathetic characters.
It kind of does, yes, and it certainly does make those extra dimensional creatures pretty hateable. And I loved when I forget if it's either the first or second time when the Charlie Day character drifts with the kaiju, when he says that this has all happened before and they tried to come here with dinosaurs. I thought that was great.
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting. Actually, that was an interesting point. Yeah, the dinosaur. I forgot about that. Yeah,
Right.
that was interesting.
You know what's interesting is that this movie draws a lot of comparison to Battlefield.
Battleship?
Battleship, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Battleship.
yeah.
Where the aliens have this like sort of, well, I guess when they drift with the alien, it's very, very similar to a scene in Battleship.
Yeah.
And it's very similar. They're trying to take over the world, a very Pinky and the Brain-esque story.
Well, right, and I think, though, this kind of speaks to another Independence Day parallel, right? Because the aliens in that film were kind of referred to as like locusts, right? Where they just go from planet to planet to planet, and they just use up that planet until it's like a withered husk.
Right,
And instead of like
Bill Pullman asks him what to do, and the alien says, die.
Right, and to me, that is kind of what the extra-dimensional creatures in this film were kind of all about. They were kind of like locusts themselves, where they were just going to kind of come to Earth and kind of rape Earth, right, of any type of benefit or wealth that it has, and then kind of move on to another planet. So I guess from a motivation standpoint, the antagonists in this are very similar to the antagonists in ID4.
Definitely.
We
Final
done?
thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm ready to get final thoughts, yeah.
Go ahead, Neil. What'd you think of Pacific Rim?
I'm going to give it a 9.5.
Woo!
It's just short of perfection. And, well, okay, I'm sorry. They've taken it a bit far. Obviously, a 10.
I only think that's funny because Simon's joining us.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I would say a lot of my enjoyment is out of the possibility of there being this expanded universe.
Sure.
Maybe an anime series?
Yeah, honestly, if there's not a fucking anime series, they've done something wrong. I've never been this excited for, like, an expanded universe ever. I kind of find the Star Wars expanded universe kind of like
Touch and go.
Touch and go. Like, there's some really good stories. There's a lot of mediocre, really bad stories in that. So I've kind of like washed my hands clean of that and only read really selected material from that. I think this is like a absolute gold mine for the expanded universe. And I everything was really tight. There's not a lot of loose ends. This movie just leaves. There's not a lot of abandoned like plot lines.
No,
or
if they
like
never
that.
make another Pacific Rim movie ever again, this is a complete movie contained within itself.
It's a complete movie experience. I think Del Toro wanted it that way, setting this film in the last days of this war. I feel like if they were going to make another film, it would have to be a prequel.
Right. Well, no,
that's not necessarily a bad thing.
I disagree with that.
Oh,
I think it would
really?
be a very interesting story. Like, what do we do now? The monsters are gone. We have this like this unity. What happens after there is no bonding agent holding mankind together?
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Because they're already in like apocalyptic type state. They could. This is a story that it would be a completely different story, but set in the same world.
I agree.
Which I think is what the Star Wars prequels failed to do, is that they try to retell the stories of the first one, where it wasn't the same universe.
Gotcha.
So anyways, I absolutely loved the movie, enjoyed the acting, everything about it was just really great, and it really felt like a cult classic, but not a cult classic's the right word, just a classic in general.
Sure, yeah. People have said that it is perhaps the Star Wars of this generation.
It very well could be, yeah.
I would say that's probably verging on hyperbole, but I can see why people would say that.
Yeah.
Anyway, my score for this film is a 9.
Whoa.
I think that as blockbusters go, it is probably the perfect blockbuster. Just as like like Die Hard is like the perfect action movie. I think for me, like Pacific Rim is on the short list of the prototypical blockbuster, in that it is as good as a blockbuster can possibly be. It ticks off every checkbox, right? And I think that it is as good as a blockbuster can possibly be. I think that this probably is destined for like cult classic status. This will be something that a film that will have a legion of fans, just perhaps as Star Wars had a legion of fans. So I think it is probably destined for kind of enshrinement in pop culture, right? It's kind of having this important place in pop culture, I would say. But yeah, absolutely love the set pieces, love the escalation that was going on, and I think that even though this is one of Del Toro's weaker scripts, I think that he does imbue the film with a sense of humanity and a sense of tenderness. It's not a very cynical movie, which I liked. He imbues it with a lot of things that Bay and Verbinski and those types of directors I don't think are good enough to imbue their films with.
Or even really hint at them. They just kind of...
Right.
They are what they are on very surface levels.
Right. I mean, Del Toro does certainly imbue the film with this great sense of humanity. And the film is kind of like a hug on some level.
Yeah, dude, this is what Transformers wanted to be. I think this just kicks Transformers' ass.
I think it really does, and it makes the Transformers movies look even more cynical and ugly and nihilistic than they already did.
Yeah.
So I think that this very well could have been just like another Transformers film, but it was Del Toro that really elevated it to something much more. But 9 out of 10 for me.
This is probably all killing Simon.
I'm just, I'm soaking it all up.
Getting ready for his rebuttal pretty soon. You know what? I'm at a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, could have seen that coming.
Yeah, I kind of had a feeling.
I loved every part of it. I don't think there are any missteps within itself.
There's no missing beats, so to speak.
No.
Yeah.
I think that the movie that Del Toro wanted to be made is all right there on screen.
It does feel compromised.
It's uncompromised. I loved it. You know, I grew up watching anime, and to me, this is like live-action anime. And it's like a movie that I've been dreaming to see for like the past 10 years or something.
Probably closer to 20 years at this point.
Yeah, but I absolutely loved the 2-pilot system that they made. We didn't really talk about that, but when I saw the trailer, I was kind of thinking, why are there 2 pilots? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why? That just seems kind of silly. But the whole movie hinges on that, the entire movie, and it's amazing, and we haven't seen that before. Yes, we have The Matrix, we have Avatar, we've seen that kind of jacking in type of thing before, but this specifically, I thought it was pretty unique.
This co-op mode type thing, yeah.
Yeah, they share the neural load and the whole neural handshake thing and the drift and all that. Like, that's new stuff.
It's a sense of a partnership that's there's a very interesting concept behind that.
Absolutely, and with all the cliches that are admittedly in the movie, that is absolutely not at all. It is completely unique and creative. Yeah. At least I thought so. Yeah. And I just loved it. I love the action. I think, like I said before, it's only second to Avatar as far as visuals go. I completely stand behind that. And you know what? I've already seen it twice. I have not seen it in IMAX yet, and I probably will.
Oh, saying a lot to make the IMAX splurge.
Yeah, and one other thing we didn't really talk about was the music. I really love the theme that they made for this. It's simple, but I really enjoyed it. And Tom Morello was a collaborator on this for the electric guitars. He was on Iron Man 1 and 2, and I actually didn't bring this up when we talked about Iron Man 3, but I thought that was something that was really sorely missing from Iron Man 3, is we didn't have that Tom Morello.
Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, but we didn't have that familiar sort of guitar stuff going on in Iron Man 3. And I love that about this. And I love the soundtrack.
Okay.
All right, Simon, where's your rebuttal?
Okay. Score-wise, I'm going to give it a 6.
Oh, that's not that bad.
Well,
that's not that bad.
I think that is certainly, it's appreciably lower than where we're at.
Oh, absolutely. But from talking to Simon,
I was going to give it a 5, but I feel like I can't because it's Del Toro, and I respect him.
Yeah.
Just talking with Simon before we did the show, he's throwing out words like hate.
Did I? Oh yeah, I was. I did say.
You said you hated it.
It's the word hate as well.
Yeah. So I thought it would be lower, but go ahead.
I'm going to give it a 6 because visually it was stunning. There's no doubt about it. Visually, it is an incredible piece of filmmaking. But as a film in general, I pretty much hated it.
Well, there you go.
Cliche loaded upon cliche, weak storytelling, weak characters, really like pretty poor acting, I thought. But I think the acting that was more of a part of more the fault of the script.
Sure.
Okay.
And I was just, I don't know, I was just bored. I felt, even though it's supposed to be it's so like innovative and everything, I felt like I'd seen it all before. And I know you say that's a good thing in terms of anime and all that kind of stuff, and of course it's an archetypal story, but I was just bored. And I just was rolling my eyes like throughout the whole thing. And I've got no interest in it whatsoever. It's so far from perfection. And I always think this is kind of, it annoys me when people say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. This felt like I was watching a video game the entire time.
Okay. Yeah.
Felt like the storytelling in a video game.
Maybe why I liked it. So.
Well, yeah, to be fair, last week we discussed, Joe literally just watched me play a video game for 16 hours, so...
like I said, I wanted to like this film so much. I love... I was going to say Benicio del Toro. Guillermo del Toro, I love him. I think Pan's Labyrinth is one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen, really.
And he hasn't made a movie in 5 years.
No.
So
I mean,
it's been a long time.
Del Toro loves, he loves monsters, he loves creatures, and he does them better than almost anybody. When you think about the creatures he created in Pan's Labyrinth, it's just phenomenal. Like imagery that stays in your head. Yeah. Just beautiful. And he wanted to make At the Mountains of Madness, which I expected this to be that in a way, because he wasn't allowed to make that. This was his kind of secondary choice.
I think that this is less of a monster movie and more of a sci-fi, like BattleTech type movie. I think this is almost the second, the giant monsters themselves and kind of the monster battle is almost secondary in my mind. Like it's the monsters are there as a MacGuffin of sorts, like not
they kind of are a plot motivator.
They're secondary to the human elements of the story. Whereas I think you're looking more for more of a straight up monster movie, which I didn't get the vibe.
Well, I think though, just when you consider the source,
sure, absolutely.
It was the human element that bothered me though, because I felt I felt like the human relationships in this weren't drawn from real life. They were drawn from everything that had been seen in other movies.
Yeah, that is a fair criticism. I mean, that's definitely something that can be said.
Yeah,
yeah, and I think it's unfair in a sense for me to, like I say, we're approaching this from different perspectives. I'm interested in the creatures. That fascinates me, the idea of him making this monster movie. But the whole BattleTech thing doesn't interest me and never has.
Gotcha.
And I find that stuff kind of boring. So so we're going to have different opinions in that sense anyway. Just because I'm not really interested in that, whereas a lot of people are. So I don't know.
Well, I'd say this was much more peaceable than I thought it was going to be. I think perhaps we'll have to declare mistrial.
Mistrial, all right.
Yeah, I think we'll have to kind of just leave it at that.
Simon, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you very much.
For the third time.
Yeah. Anytime I'll come on and berate things you love.
or the opposite. We haven't actually shared an opinion yet. Because we didn't
on the same page on Warm Bodies, I think.
Yeah, we were fairly close.
You liked it more than
that is true. I mean, I was kind of the dissenting voice on that podcast. The three of you certainly were lower on Warm Bodies than I was. So yeah, but certainly though, I mean, for Frank and Weedy and for this, there has been some dissension in the ranks. Yeah. So
I do want to come on when we've seen a film that I loved, so I don't just come across as a whingy Brit.
Well, and live up to your name of Merc and Peckerwood.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, are we done?
Yeah.
Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/oopsallmovies and visit our website at oopsallmovies.com. And don't forget to rate and subscribe to the podcast in iTunes. I'm Joe Woody at Joe Woody on Twitter.
I'm Neil Lewis at Astromonaut.
And I'm Steve Clark at Steve Clark Bar.
And Simon, where can we find you on Twitter or elsewhere?
On Twitter, I'm at Simon Tatum, and you can check out my website, which is simontatum.com.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, once again.
No worries.
The mistrial.
Yes.
If you'd like to message the show, we are oopsallmovies@gmail.com and at oopsallmovies on Twitter. And until next time, don't forget to practice proper movie theater etiquette, because ain't nobody got time for that.
Bye.
Next This week, we will review The Conjuring.